You on?
You're on.
Okay. All right. So now we're going to address how to address trauma and stress and in the emotional context of that. So when you're working with somebody, what we have to do is have them identify or help us identify what that stress or trauma is emotionally. So the easiest way to do that is just to ask them to think of something that is causing them stress or anxiety or anything like that. So for Melissa, I could probably just ask generally, just think of something stressful or that makes you overwhelmed. And as she's thinking of things, you're going to start applying pressure in your muscle testing, however you do that. And so as you're applying and as they start thinking through things, eventually you'll come to something where the muscle gives way, where the contraction of the muscle that you're testing, wherever that is going to cease to contract and it's going to release a little bit and the arm goes spongy. As soon as it goes spongy, you're going to open your legs. So close and open your legs and then hold that. Now you can put the arm down, and what we've done is we've captured whatever it was that she was thinking about that triggered the response of her arm. We've got it trapped in what we call proprioceptors in your hips, and it's stuck there. We're holding on to it. Hey Hans, can you step out of the room and close the doors? Thanks, bud. So now that we have it here, we're gonna put in some formats, because what we want to do is we can't necessarily take the trauma out of the cell. The cell has one of its purposes is to remember what the traumas are. So wherever it is in the body, it's always going to be there to an extent. But what we can do is address how the body responds to that trauma that's stuck there. So we want to address the brain. So we're going to put our hands and fingers together like this. And we're going to open our jaw. And then close and open your legs, and then close your jaw. Now what we've done is we've added this filter of the brain, because we want to isolate that with the trauma. So rather than working on the trauma of the whole body, because her body may be riddled with whatever trauma this is, we're isolating just the brain. That's what we want to work with. And then we want to address the emotional content of that trauma. We're not working on the physical trauma. Specifically, we're working on the emotional trauma. And then it could be another kind of trauma, but we want the emotion. So you're going to put your ring finger pad on your thumb pad together like that. And the other fingers are going to be open. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to hold that. I'm going to open my jaw. I'm going to close my legs and then open my legs and then close my jaw again. Okay, so now I've got three things. I've got the trauma, and I've specified that I want to address that trauma within the brain and the emotional content of that trauma within the brain. From there, we can go straight to holding the head. So cameraman, if you want to come closer and do kind of a top-down shot so they can see where I'm putting my fingers. Yep, closer, so they can see right where my hand's going. So from where Melissa's pupils are, we're going to go straight up on the forehead, and we're going to do two fingers on one side and the end of the thumb on the other, and we're going to hold. And you're going to hold that until you feel a pulse. What the pulse indicates is that we've changed the physiological response to the trauma. All right, within the brain. So however the brain used to respond to the trauma, that's going to be normalized and it's not going to respond that way anymore. And when we feel the pulse, we can just release that. And then hopefully Melissa can remember what it was she was thinking about. So then we can go back and check again. So if you want to back up so they can see what I'm doing. And I'll say, okay, Melissa, I want you to think of the same trauma, or just think of anything that's stressing you out. And then you're going to start muscle monitoring again. Just apply a light pressure. You're not going to bounce. You're just going to apply pressure. And hopefully, if they're thinking about the same thing, you shouldn't feel a change in the muscle. So her arm's actually going down again, so there's more to work with. Now I'll give you an example of one that I had today with a young girl. So the mom told me that one of the ways that she responds to stress is in her lungs. Her breathing pattern changes and she starts to hyperventilate. Okay, so it's a lot more specific. So there's an advanced way to handle that, but I'm going to go through a really simple way you can handle it right at the moment that it's happening. So if this girl was going through this response, and she wouldn't have to be on a table, you could do this if they were standing up. If she was hyperventilating, I would say, okay, I want you to touch your chest with your fingertips like this. So go ahead and do that. And then I would touch her arm, close my legs, and open them. And I'd say, okay, you can release those points. And then I would put in the emotion mode in your hand. So ring finger pad on your thumb pad. Hold that. And then I'm going to open my jaw to transfer information up to my jaw and then back down to my hips with emotion mode. So I'm going to open my jaw and then release my jaw after I open and close my legs. Now, what I've done is I've captured the essence of the trauma's emotion with its direct response to how her lungs handle that stress and trauma. So now I'm going to go straight to the head hold. Put 2 fingers on one side, directly above the pupils. The thumb on the other side, directly above the pupil, and hold that till I feel a pulse. And for that girl that I was talking about, cameraman, if you want to back up, for that girl that I was talking about, what I would expect after doing that is the next time that she's in a situation where normally she would go into a hyperventilation, is she has a much easier time controlling her breathing, regulating her breathing, which is going to help her regulate how she feels and thinks through that stressful situation.